Thank you. You said so much that I want to touch on. I want to answer the question, of course, because Jack and I had a great conversation yesterday about Sanatana Dharma.
Oh yeah,
Essentially,
man. That's
so
it. That's it.
so
Yeah.
there we go. So essentially, like the concept that all the religions are pointing to the same thing, and Sanatana Dharma being that remove the ceremonies, remove the forms of the interpretation of God, and align yourself with the core of what is being shared through these modalities, through these disciplines, through these organizations, infrastructures. So I that's something that's just permeated my life, and to weave that into I grew up in a martial arts family in Chinatown, New York, between Chinatown and Brooklyn Heights, and just I was raised mostly around Chinese and Indian people. I while I'm part Asian, I'm not necessarily Chinese or Indian, and so I'm deeply grateful to have received so much from these cultures growing up under an Indian guru while also going to Catholic church and just being able to have friends from all walks of life and just seeing, hey, that we're all one here. And it's in the martial space. I think that there's especially we're in the Western world. You can't deny it. And if this, I'm in LA right now, but I consider New York the capital of like the Western world. There's so much dynamism that happens in New York, and so many minds coming together. And when that applied to the martial scenario, uh, I think one of the great things about martial arts is that at the end of the day, if you get punched in the face, it's real and you can see it. So it's overt, and it's overt pressure. And the overt things are oftentimes what convinces people to see something as real or not real. So therefore, the subtle things can be much harder for someone to grasp. So the cool thing about um, for me, the coolest thing about my martial experience is that I've grown up around so much of this subtle awareness, concepts, and practices that have given me insight. But the bridge, building the bridge to the overt, so that people can be convinced that, hey, this thing is going to help you in your life. You're going to have a better life if you do this thing. I've always been searching for those things, and they've come to me. And one person in particular that gave me so much that my big brother is Josh Waitzkin, who wrote the book The Art of Learning, and which is great. I recommend the audiobook because Tim Ferriss bought the rights to it. They're like best friends, and Tim convinced him to narrate it himself, and it's awesome. And you could see a lot of his. He was a child chess prodigy that the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer was based on. And he grew up to be a martial arts world champion in the sport of Tai Chi push hands and the first black belt under Brazilian Jiu Jitsu prodigy Marcelo Garcia. So Josh, I would, a lot of people in my life I grew up seeing before I met, meaning I would get visualizations of them. I would just download and see, oh, there's this person coming into my life. I grew up with a lot of like psychic grandmas and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, I wonder who this person is who I'm going to meet. He's dressed in all black, and he's got this thing going. Who's this guy? And then when I was 22, my dad calls me. He's like, hey, some guy. We're shooting my Justice for Hire senior thesis for my NYU film school, final project. And my dad calls me up while I'm on set. He's like, some guy named Josh just came and beat up our whole martial arts school in Chinatown. I'm like, what? Who is this guy? Where's he gonna be? And so he's like gonna be at this tournament in the International Chinese Martial Arts Championship in Orlando. I'm like, we're gonna be there. So, I went there to fight Josh, and I was blown away that this guy who's 8 years older than me was beating all the seniors, all the masters, going around, just taking down all the folks who considered themselves masters in Tai Chi because he had something that they didn't have, which is he was a prodigy at pattern recognition. And he applied pattern recognition to Tai Chi. And therefore, he was able to progress far beyond people who had spent more years training than him. So he had a formula that he gave to me that's like, hey, Jan, this is how you progress quickly. He's like, you take anything, you break it into 3 parts, you train each one of those parts individually, and then you put it back together, and now you've mastered it. And that's the formula for mastery. And I was like, oh, huh. And sure enough, that's how he ran all the coaching. Like, my dad and I fought him at the tournament. They beat us, of course. We got recruited onto the U.S. team. We got our asses beat for 3 months straight, every single day. Well, 4 days a week, and then my dad and I were still training outside of that. And we, went to our first World Cup with Josh and that U.S. team, and we got a supercharged experience in making these modalities real, putting them under pressure. Because if they can't perform under pressure, they can't perform, and that means you can't perform repeatably. And if you can't perform repeatably, you can't make it competition worthy. So if you can't do it over and over again on command, you can't do it in under pressure in a competition. And life, to a certain extent, is a competition. And I don't say that in like a destructive way, because there's a destructive way to view that. I mean that as we're pushing each other to make ourselves better. When someone does something great, I want to go even higher. And I always want to raise the bar so that I can contribute to humanity. So I look at competition as a great litmus test for these modalities. And if your modality is not allowing you to withstand great pressure, whether that's emotional pressure or the intensity of your environment, then you have to question your practice and upgrade it. That's my perspective.